Hello, I'm Odin, and today I'm going to make something new. It's the new helmet from Thor Ragnarok. Now, I've made helmets before, but I've never made one out of foam. So this is going to be my first foam helmet. I will need a head cast for pattern making. This one is from what I made the super suit for Beyond Geek. To build my helmet, I'm going to use Evil Ted's technique for making foam helmets, which includes wrapping a head cast, covering it with duct tape, and drawing the helmet shape that you want on the head, including where the seams should go. Now, I'm doing these steps from memory, so if you want to know exactly what steps to use, check out his comprehensive videos on how to make a foam helmet. My video is just about how to make this foam helmet. After making my paper pattern, I pinned it to some EVA floor mat and cut out the pieces. I bent them to shape with a heat gun and then glued them together with contact cement. Pay close attention to your guide marks when you're gluing, otherwise the pieces will not match up and the helmet could be warped. When I got this helmet made, I was not happy with how tightly it fit on the back of the head, so I adjusted the back of the center pattern piece, made a new pattern, and tried again. This one fits snugly on the head cast of Sage. So by using the heat gun, I relaxed the foam, and now it has a smoother helmet shape. The one problem with this is, I want a helmet that'll fit me. So what I want to do is measure my head, and then I can measure Sage's head, and I can figure out how much I need to enlarge these plans in the computer so I can print them out the right size to make a helmet to fit me. I cleaned up the patterns in the computer, making the centerline of the helmet a smooth curve and correcting the size of the cheek guards. I also made a pattern for the wings, I marked all the center points, and I made the first trim piece for the cheeks. The rest of the pieces I'll have to figure out once the helmet is built. And I'll put a link for the set of completed plans in the description. I've got my new pattern pieces. I increased these by 107% so they'll fit my head. Something else I noticed while working on these, Thor's helmet isn't nearly as thick as the floor foam that I had used here. This is something I grabbed out of habit. So instead, this time, I'm going to make it out of the 5mm craft foam, so it'll be much thinner and actually look more accurate to the film. I pinned the new pattern to 5mm foam, and I make sure to mark the center point for the wings. Then I can cut out all the pieces, shape them with a heat gun, and glue them together. The 5mm foam is more flexible than floor mats, and I'm going to have to add layers to stiffen it up. Well, that's a lot better. I smooth the helmet with a heat gun and glue on the decorative pieces for the cheek guards. I insert a drill bit into the center points so I can glue the pieces in exactly the right spot. The main brow is easy enough to draw on paper, cut out, and glue into place. And there's a small tail on the back of the helmet, so I cut one out from a piece of floor mat and sand a bevel into it with a disc sander. There are some stripes that go across the top of the helmet. I modify the pattern and make the two center strips. These are cut from 3mm foam, and I'm going to use blue so it's easy to see which pieces are different thicknesses. Another set of stripes is on the outside of the first, and there's a crest down the center of the helmet. I use a piece of floor mat, cut to size, and shaped to a point on my disc sander. There's a small trim on the brow and on the temples. I cut parts from some red 2mm foam and glue them on. Now I can start on the wings. These are going to be easy compared to the helmet, as they are a flat layered build and only get a slight curve when finished. I'm starting the layer of 5mm foam first, and the rest will all be 2mm foam. I'm using red and yellow for the 2mm foam, so you can see how the layers stack up. After I cut all 6 layers for each wing, I bend a piece of wire coat hanger to hold the curve when it's finished. I want to glue the wire hanger in first, so I cut a place for it in the black foam. This way, it'll not make a bulge when the 2mm foam is glued on top of it. I marked the center point for each layer that has one, so it's easy to assemble them in the right place. I also didn't just cut the outside edges until all the pieces were glued together. That way, I can cut them all at once and have clean edges that match up. I then use a belt sander to make bevels in the wing edges, just like I did in the tail of the helmet. The wings rotate in the movie, and I'm going to articulate mine as well. If you make a helmet, you can always just glue them in place and skip this bit. First, I cut some small pieces of 3/4-inch PVC pipe for the wings to attach with, and then I can use some fender washers, screws, and binding posts to keep the foam together. The PVC is cut to be the same size as all the foam layers, and the washers are just there to keep the foam from falling off the pipe. Then I cut a ring of 2mm foam to finish off the trim. Now it needs a quick blast of Plasti-Dip. I'm going to paint the helmet with metallic craft paints. I mix a sapphire blue with some pewter for the base color and brush it on. It takes 2 coats for an even finish. Then I can add 2 coats of the pewter, and I'm going to paint the full inside of the wings this color. I use black foam as a base with the helmet, so I don't need to paint the inside at all. Then I can add a light trim of silver. Once dry, the helmet is a nice clean bright color, so it's time to make it dirty. I just use a mix of black acrylic paint and water, smearing it in the corners and wiping it off. I can also use the same paper towel to just smudge some paint on the flat areas. I add a small bit of foam to the binding post and paint the binding post and washers blue, so on the outside all the colors will be the same. Because everything is painted, I don't want the wings rubbing on the helmet when they move, so I make plastic washers cut from some retail packaging. These will stick to the foam and then rub against each other, so the painted foam won't tear itself up. All the materials I used were picked up locally, and I put a part list in the description. Now remember, there's many different ways that you can make something, but this is how Odin makes. If you like the video or have other ideas for something for me to make, please leave them in the comments below. And if you're making any of these projects for yourself, I'd love to see a picture. Send me one at odin@odinmakes.com. I feel like the Frenchman from Monty Python.